Hey, good evening. We're going to get started because I want to give Mr. Seale as much time as we can. So, welcome all. My name is David Luke. I serve as director of the Intercultural Center here at U of M Flint. Shameless plug, follow us on social media at UM-Flint ICC to keep up with so you don't miss events like this in the future. I'm excited to give a brief introduction and get out of the way, but I'd like to begin this event, as I do with all Intercultural Center events, with a land acknowledgement. We'd like to acknowledge that the land we're meeting on today is the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary homeland of many indigenous nations, most recently the Anishinaabe, including Potawatomi, Chippewa, Ojibwe, and Odawa tribal nations. We acknowledge the painful history of genocide and forced relocation and removal of many from this territory, and we honor and respect the many indigenous people, including those of the Three Fires Alliance, still connected to this land on which we gather. It's my privilege to introduce our speaker today, but first I want to give a little background as to how we got to this point. So for me, in April 2016, I worked at the University of Kentucky in their Martin Luther King Center. My boss at the time, Khalil Baker, and I had both seen a documentary on PBS, Panther's Vanguard of the Revolution. Has anyone seen that documentary? So as you might recall, at the end of the documentary, there's sort of a where are they now thing, and it mentioned that Bobby Seale was doing speaking engagements at college campuses across the country. And for me, my thought was, Bobby Seale is 82 years old, and if I were 82 years old, I would probably not want to do anything. So how great would it be to bring him to campus? But we really thought that this was unrealistic, that we would be able to actually bring him. We were able to bring him to campus, and he was a great guest, and he gave a memorable talk. And so fast forward to December 2018. So I started here in May of 2018. The chancellor in December, Susan E. Borrego, committed funding to MLK Day and Black History Month programming on this campus. With that commitment, I wondered if we'd be able to secure a speaker for Black History Month on such short notice, only 2 months. Fortunately, once again, when I reached out to Mr. Seale, he was enthusiastic about coming to Flint. So with that, I want to quickly recognize the Office of the Chancellor, Dr. Susan E. Borrego, for financially supporting this event. The financial commitment ensures that U of M Flint will be able to continue to provide high quality and important programming for MLK Day and Black History Month into the future. I'd like to also thank the MLK Day Planning Committee, the Department of Theater and Dance, and especially Doug Mueller, who's helped make sure that the sound and lights and all this stuff works well, and we have this beautiful flyer behind us. I'd also like to thank the Office of Educational Opportunity Initiatives, or EOI, and in particular Dr. Reg Motley for assisting with this event. All those people that did the registration, the book signing, that have been working out there, that are by the doors, are EOI folks. Many of them are students whose professionalism may have fooled you into thinking they were staff, but please give them a round of applause. So briefly, the structure for the event tonight is that Mr. Seale will have about an hour to speak before Q&A, which will begin around 6:30, unless he decides that he'd like to do that a little bit sooner. Mr. Jim Peck, Executive Director of University Communications, will come to the stage at that time. He'll stand at that microphone, and that'll kind of indicate that we're going to start doing the Q&A. Out of respect for the speaker's time, we will proceed until 7 o'clock, and at which point the program will end. So now for the speaker bio. Revolutionary, activist, community organizer, social justice advocate. These descriptions and many more come to mind when people hear the name Bobby Seale. In October 1966, Seale and Huey P. Newton founded the Black Panthers, developing a 10-point platform to address racial and economic inequality in the United States. Black Panther Party membership reached a peak of 10,000 by early 1969, acquiring 90% support from black people in major cities in America. The organization is well known for advocating self-defense against police brutality. The Panthers also organized dozens of community programs such as free breakfast for children and free health clinics. Seale makes clear when he speaks that the Black Panther Party was an all-power to all the people organization. The Black Panther Party worked for self-determination and social justice for all people. Seale is no stranger to the University of Michigan. He was one of the speakers at the 1971 rally for the release of UM-Flint alumnus John Sinclair, who was arrested and given 10 years of prison for the possession of 2 marijuana cigarettes. Seale has visited more than 700 colleges to share his personal experience as a Black Panther. Today, he continues his travels to give advice to students interested in community organizing and social justice. And we're fortunate that he's here with us tonight. So with that, please welcome Bobby Seale to the University of Michigan-Flint.
I need you to turn the lights up for all the people so I can see your faces. I mean, they darken that, and then I'm here, and boom, 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 I can't see your faces. So when I'm talking and rapping, I'm rapping with you. I like to see your faces, your reaction. You know, it's a real communication going. So maybe they'll do it. I don't know. Or do I just need glasses? No. Well, you know, I like to say sometimes, how you doing? How you doing? So, well, I'm doing all right. So how you been feeling? No, I've been all right. So, well, you know the world is round, right? Oh, yeah, we know it's round. It's not flat. Says, no, it's not flat. Trump think it's flat, you know. But we know it's round. And yeah, it's been a long journey of living, and I'm glad to be living, but my point is that I wound up quitting my job at Kaiser Aerospace and Electronics just outside of Oakland, California, where I landed that job, in the year 1960, mid-60. And come to find out, I'm working on a NASA project. I didn't realize when I was applying, I was one job, and they says, well, that job is already taken. And the guy asked me, did I know anything about non-destruct testing? I said, yeah, Xylo processing, United States Air Force, structure repair high-performance aircraft. And he says, oh, okay. And they called an engineer over. And he said, you may be able to use this guy here in your department. So he took me over to this department. And he says, you know anything about MagnaFlux? I says, no. He said, well, this is a MagnaFlux machine. It's an electromagnetic field. You shoot through any machined part, et cetera. And the electromagnetic field, we can put a fluid across that has fine powdery iron particles. And if there's an abrasion under the surface, a bubble or something like that, these iron particles will light up under a black light. Electromagnetic field black light non-destruct testing on all engine frames for the Gemini missile program. I'm working on a damn NASA project. I was shocked, you know what I mean? Wow, I says, heck, I'm helping to build goddamn rockets to get up in space. And that was where I was at as a young man. I had no politics at that time, and at first beginning there, no real politics. I didn't know anything. No socialism. I haven't read nobody's socialism. I was still running around with the notion in my head that some television program I used to see, I was a communist for the FBI, starring Richard Carlson or somebody. So you can see how far back I go. I go way back, you know what I mean? I go back to 8 years of age when we came to California, you know. World War II was over, and then they were showing all this stuff on the news and stuff about Jewish people being exterminated, oh my God, and all this kind of stuff. So I'm 8 years of age when we hit California. turned 9 that October, I think, yeah. And my father has his own business and stuff like this. Anyway, I was a lucky young guy to grow up with a lot of trades and skills. My father actually built our first home in Texas. And he finished that home. I was 7 3/4 of age. My father was a master carpenter and builder. My grandpa was a master carpenter and builder. My uncles and aunts and cousins and on my father's side. Jasper, Texas is where my father was born. Inside that county of Jasper, and another settlement of my peoples on my mother's side was the Trailers. And this is where I evolved from. The Seale family owned the Seale plantation prior to Emancipation Proclamation. S-E-A-L-E, Seale. That's my last name. That's our last name. Winnie went to work for the Seale plantation people in their homes, and the Seale plantation people were the bankers in Jasper, Texas, Jasper County, not far from the Louisiana border. Anyway, she went to work, my great-grandma Winnie, for them, and 2 years later, they hired Peter. And Peter and she decided to get married after a year or so. And they chose the last name Seale, because they come out of slavery without last names, whatever. And that's where my people come from, in my father's side. The Trailers in Jasper, Texas had a big settlement. My great-grandmother, she had 16 children out of 15 births. One of those births, near the last one, was my mother, Thelma, and her identical twin sister, Zelma, for that 15th birth. And in effect, I was born in Dallas, Texas. And the reason I was born in Dallas, Texas, because my mother was pissed off at my father. She was pregnant, and she went to Dallas to stay with her sister, because my father hadn't built her that house he promised. And remember, my father's a master carpenter and builder. He can build houses. So I wound up getting born in Dallas, Texas. Then my father came up there and got her. I promise I'll build a house. And then a year or so later, my sister wound up getting born in Dallas. He still hadn't built that damn house. And of course, my brother came along, and he went down to Port Arthur, Texas, not far from Beaumont. And he bought the land to build a house and went to work for Martin Lumber Company. And then we moved to Port Arthur. And my father built that house. Excuse me. My father built that house. And I guess I was 7 3/4 age when he finished it. And I helped paint the front. Next morning, I saw mosquitoes stuck all on the paint, you know. But what I'm saying is I was raised a carpenter, a builder, and we wound up during World War II. They moved my father's job from the Kelly Field to the Oakland Army Base in Oakland, California. And with that, California was the scene framework, Berkeley, California in particular. It's where we lived. father had his own business, Seals and Sons Cabinet. Well, it was Seale's Cabinet Shop. And as we got a little older, 10, 11 years old down there in the summer, we thought it should be Seale and Sons Cabinet, so we made another sign, Seale and Sons Cabinet Shop. But he was doing a lot of furniture refinishing and also working on some government jobs and refurbishing, equipment, desks and stuff like that, what have you. But that's how I was raised. By the time I'm 15, I'm doing lot plot layouts for adding rooms and dens to people's homes. I did all the plans, all the specs and specifications, what have you, et cetera. Reading the building codes and all this kind of stuff from my father and his building contractor, another white guy. They used to work together at the Oakland Army base in the last 2 years of the World War II. And he'd come over and say, George, I got another job. All we have to do is get some plans for it. And he said, I think my boy may be able to draw them plans for you. And so I went out, did the measurements, et cetera, lot plot, what have you, et cetera. They went out there. I'm 15 years old, you know what I mean? And I did it. I did the whole thing, 2-story structure, et cetera, 3-dimensional design, layout, all that kind of stuff, all specs and specifications for materials, et cetera, cubic yards of concrete for foundation, all this kind of stuff. This is the kind of stuff that at 15 and 16 I did for my father. I'm still in high school, I draw these plans and stuff up, and they give me $25. $25 then was like $165. That was a lot of money. $25 for a week or two of work. Shoot, boy, you going crazy. You 15, 16 years old. Anyway, I did 3 of those for those guys. They would take the plans, and put their name on it and their little contracting names, et cetera, and go build the stuff. But that's where I come from. So I was lucky to be raised in the tech world, something like that, carpentry and building. Went off into the United States Air Force. I mastered every tech school program, et cetera, all the way up to a 7 skill level, and I didn't realize that it was, I asked Sergeant Lawson at Ellsworth Air Force Base, wow, you know what I mean? What's the next skill level? He says, you got it now. I said, you mean the Castle Air Force Base, you guys flew me down and man. He says, you 7 skill. I said, I'm only a corporal. I said, I got 5 months to wait, time and grade before I can be a buck sergeant. He says, that's all right, Seale. I'm putting you out. You're lead man now. But I fooled around and aced all these skill levels, And anyway, there I was, working, repairing, structural repair, high-performance aircraft. I think we had 52 B-52 bombers on that base, Ellsworth Air Force Base, Rapid City, South Dakota, land of the Lakota. The Lakota is Native Americans. That's their true name, the so-called Sioux. Their true name is the Lakota peoples. And I had identified really in those early teenage years with the Lakota peoples. And I had read about them and read about Crazy Horse and read about Sitting Bull and all those guys. I did it first because I was interested in health, long-distance running, and all kind of stuff that Native Americans seem to possess, et cetera, me and my friend. And wow, I learned, wow, this is the first introduction to politics. I didn't know any history of Black American history at this time. I mean, I'm talking about 15, 16 years of age, you know what I mean? We're talking 1952, 53, 51, or something like that. And wow, yeah, I wound up in Rapid City, South Dakota, and Ellsworth Air Force Base, just because I had identified with the Sioux, the so-called Sioux. And, I was there at a time when Cary Grant and others shot that movie North by Northwest, and the big heads at Mount Rushmore presidents and others. And the restaurant, I visited that restaurant, and they say they just shot the scene a month before I got there, where Cary Grant's in the biggest shooting in the restaurant there. And there I was, when I had my off time, checking out Battle with Custer and got his butt whipped, you know what I mean? And I went with the Native Americans, they used to say, oh, they massacred us, you know what I mean? I said, no, the Sioux guy was victorious on your ass. That's what in that particular battle, I don't know. That was me. And I come out of the United States Air Force, and I wound up with this job on the Gemini Missile Program. And then I started studying my history, my African-American history. I digested W.B. Du Bois's Black Reconstruction. I digested Dr. Herbert Abthacker's documentation of 250 slave revolts from the year 1800 to 1857. I digested Dr. Herbert Abthacker's other work and book that documented all the wars Black Americans had fought in this country. This is the kind of stuff that was blowing my mind when I was researching and understanding my African-American people's history. I began to look at Africa too. And I looked up one day, et cetera, and I was reading something, trying to structure and put together Black history so we could get it into the curriculum. And I was dealing with Kwame Nkrumah in Africa and researching there, and come to find out, the other guys there and the girls there and the women there who was helping me, I had 16 people to meet at my house for this Black History Month, for the Black history that we wanted to put in our curriculum. And I'm reading it, I started discovering, I says, bauxite. They got bauxite all over West Africa. I don't believe this. So everybody said, bauxite? What the hell is bauxite? I say, bauxite, man. I say, bauxite is the basic aluminum ore, man, for all aluminum products in the world. I say, the Africans should be rich, et cetera. It blew my mind, which of course pushed me to understand the mineral resources all over Africa, the cobalt, the gold, the copper ore in the southern Katanga province, the Leopoldville, Congo, et cetera. These are early years. I'm still working on the Gemini Missile Program, but I'm reading and getting this world view and kind of stuff and understanding Africa in terms of its mineral resources and its bowels of the earth, et cetera, and understanding the colonialization process that was taking place, that had taken place over those years. And it was a thing, And then one day, a guy named Martin Luther King came to speak in Oakland, California, at the Oakland Auditorium. 6,750 seats is what was available. Every seat was taken. I just went to hear this preacher. I grew up in different kinds of ways, that I rejected certain stuff. At one point, I rejected going to church every day and hearing all this hell and damnation, and you're going straight to hell, and oh my gosh, damn, it traumatized you with this stuff. I got tired of that. But as I grew up and heard about this man, Dr. King, who was talking about getting rid of this racial discrimination, et cetera, blah, 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 I'm going to go hear this brother here, this preacher here. And I went to hear Dr. King speak, and he spoke about all the industries and frameworks, et cetera, and groups that refuse to hire colored people, people of color all across America. Or, this is Dr. King. He could blow, man. I just say, this guy, he was oratorically just got it down. And we live in the San Francisco Oakland Bay Area, of course, and there he was speaking. And at a point that he got in his messages, he was trying to talk to us. And he says, right here in the San Francisco Oakland Bay Area, Langendorf Bread Company and Kilpatrick's Bread Company will not hire any people of color. He says, and all across America, Wonder Bread Company will not hire any people of color. I say we're going to have to boycott them. We want to boycott them so consistently and so profoundly. We want to make Wonder Bread wonder where the money went. That blew my mind. I said, go ahead on. Dr. King, you talking about inspiring and exciting me. Exciting me. He says, wow, you know what I mean? The jobs that need to be created and how are we going to do this stuff. And it was just a thing for me. So that's the first black leader I really went and hear speak, Martin Luther King. And right after that, sometime as time rolled by, we went up to got a bill passed and got, to start a warm poverty program and all that kind of stuff. And I guess I've been working on the Gemini Missile program over 3.5 years. And I wasn't married or anything like that at the time, and I quit my job. I wanted to work in the grassroots community. Me and some other students was working with some University of California group, a group based up at University of California. And we did canvassing in the community, and in a couple of months, I kept talking to them, 3 white students and 3 black students. We were grouped together for this canvassing, and we was always talking, and I'm always talking about we have to institute stuff for jobs and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, we came up with a tutorial program concept, and then we started researching what we could do. How could we make a tutorial program where we have the 10th grade tutoring the 1st grade, the 11th grade, set up a little educational program, and then pay the youth their minimum wage and stuff like this, and that's what we did. We had a youth jobs program with 100 youth, and we got the youth involved in a working class but quasi-poor and low-income working class community area in North Richmond, California. And we put that program together, I mean, really. And besides the regular program, I started teaching black history, all the research I was doing, at a Lutheran church that had no real congregation, and I got the Lutheran church guy to give me a key to use it on Saturdays. And I started teaching Black American history right there in that Lutheran church in front of a big park. And then to attract people another time, I got me 2 barbecue pits out there, you know what I mean? And stuff. I had learned in Texas how to barbecue from my uncle. My point is, that was me getting into this struggle in my way, creating programs. This is the first program I created and we created. It would be my son, my oldest son, wound up fighting in Iraq, and then he came stateside, and the city government of Richmond called me up, and the city council and the mayor and everybody wanted to give me a proclamation, told me to bring my family members and others, and I did. I brought my son, who'd just gotten back from Iraq, fought over there 2 years, what have you, and then they gave me a proclamation for starting the first youth jobs program in Richmond, California. That's how I got into this, you know what I mean? And a little bit after that, I wound up working for the city government of Oakland, California. And then, you know, they come out with this book, Black Power, what have you, et cetera. Kwame Ture, then Stokely Carmichael, you know, wrote that book. And yeah, it's cool, Black Power, et cetera. And then I noticed around the college campus there's some people was talking about, we want Black Power, we want Black Power. There's some students over there. And I saw them 2 or 3 times. And one day I just walked over there. I said, what do you guys keep hollering Black Power? Why don't you organize to get you some Black Power? What you talking about? I said, you got to take over some political power seats to get you some power. You know, I work for the city government and boom, boom, boom. But political power seats, that's the white man's seats. I said, well, you better get some people of color and some black folks in there. I said, because we ain't got no real politicians. I had done a demographic research by this time across the United States of America, 1965. Before I created the Black Panther Party. I got, excuse me. I says, this demographic research, I found only 55 black folks was duly elected to political office. There was a few more people of color duly elected. And I'm talking about the whole of the United States of America. I started researching with California. I said, now California has 52 counties. And they elect a sheriff in every last one of them. And they elect a board of supervisors in all of them. They varied in terms of the number of board of supervisors per county, what have you, et cetera. And then I started looking at others across the country. I came up with the fact, how many political seats could one be elected to? I came up with the generalized number of over 500,000 political seats one can be elected to in the United States of America. And we have these very few people in 1965 who are people of color, black folks, that are holding office. I'm trying to show you why I started the organization, the Black Panther Party. That's what it was. And I saw that, you know what I mean? Wow, the city government, county seat, county board of supervisors, manage multi-millions of dollars in each one of these counties, depending on its population size, what have you, et cetera, and so on. And I says, where's the equity afforded to the communities in our communities, et cetera? And that was the whole thing. We got to take over more political power seats, 1965. I created the Black Panther Party in October 1966. What led to that was a fight and me reciting a poem. Back in those days, you know, that period, researching, I also subscribed to quite a few different magazines across the country. One of them was the Liberator magazine that was published out of New York. I picked up a poem, and I was talking with my buddy, Virgil Morrell at Merritt College. He was a close friend of mine. Huey Newton, I knew him, but he wasn't interested in doing. He had graduated from Merritt College, and he was in Knight Law School. And he wasn't interested in starting another organization. After Malcolm X was killed, he wasn't. And I says, okay, I'll see you, bye. And I went on, and me and Virgil, you know, we organized that campus all around the fact that we looked in the newspapers, and we was the ones who put Black history to the curriculum at Merritt College. And we're looking at this situation, I'm saying, Virgil, we shouldn't let ourselves be drafted to fight in a war in Vietnam anymore. Boom, that's what we did. We organized a big rally on campus for the first time. And out of that rally, we created a first Black student organization. And of the 5,000 student population, half of them were African-American people, you know, and we had no Black student organization. And so we created one, Soul Students Advisory Council. Had a big rally in the auditorium, had 700 people in that place, et cetera. We put a play on and put some African drums and dancing on, et cetera. But I gave half a speech or something about the mineral resources in Africa and what have you, et cetera. And at the end of that program, I was the master of ceremonies. At the end of that program, I recited this poem called Uncle Sammy Called Me Full of Lucifer. And it's an anti-draft poem. It's a prose kind of statement in Uncle Sammy Called Me Full of Lucifer. And in that, this guy is not going to be fighting. He refused to fight. He refused to be drafted. He ain't going to have nothing to do with this damn war in Vietnam, et cetera, because 29% of our people were dying. African Americans was dying in Vietnam, and this country was not yet, in 1965, 66, they were not yet recognizing our constitutional democratic civil human rights here in the United States of America. And to read Dr. Herbert Afthaker's work of all the wars we fought in, we digested that material. I mean, even the German Hessian soldiers that the King of England was sending over. Lafayette was a general French from France who supported George Washington and stuff, and he went up to the New England area to check out the colonials up there, and he found them all ragtag. They didn't have their stuff together, et cetera, boom, boom, boom. And Lafayette suggested to them that, look, these slaves you got around here, you better free them and tell them you promise them they'll feed them and train them to help you fight, because you guys are going to get your butts kicked. You know, that's basically what Lafayette told them, you know what I mean? Because he said, the king is sending the German Hessian soldiers. You know, he bought them and sending them over here in many, many ships. And in fact, what they did is they did start training the blacks. And this is one of the first wars. I'm telling you, when the German Hessian soldiers hit Rhode Island, it was predominantly those black slaves who had been trained to fight with the colonials that kicked the German Hessian soldiers' butts when they tried to jump off the ships. I mean, this is beyond Crispus Attucks. I'm talking about really dying in this country, you know what I mean? And I'm trying to say this because it's important when we look at people dying and fighting to live and exist, and here you are a slave too, etc. Later, I mean, I digest W.E.B. Du Bois's work, and he documented how 165,000 black men was enlisted to the Northern Union Army midway the Civil War with an Emancipation Proclamation. And 30-some-odd thousand black men died fighting and beating the Confederates. That's who really won the war, those black men. And of course, with the 13th Amendment ending slavery and the 14th Amendment, justice under the law, and the 15th Amendment, this is all laws of the land that evolved. And then there was this Reconstruction period of 10 or 12 years. Some of the first black men was being elected to political office in various locations and places, you know, during that period, in that short period. That's what's it meant. So to me, I says, wow, we got a profound piece of human history involvement here. You know what I mean? And then we're still being discriminated against. And here it was, 1966, and I'm sitting up here with some rally. I'm creating a student organization, and I recite this poem, Uncle Sammy called it Full of Lucifer, at the tail end of this rally, and it brought the house down. Uncle Sammy called me full of Lucifer. It really was the first lines of the poem. The poem was not titled Uncle Sammy Called Me Full of Lucifer. It was a poem written by Round Stone in the Liberator magazine that I picked up on. There was a couple of other pieces of poetry I picked up, but this one was really something for that time, anti-war, et cetera, and we're not going to let ourselves fight anymore because, you know, and plus you over here beating up on some other people of color. And as other people said, I mean, I'm not going to go fight no Vietnamese. Vietnamese ain't never called me nigger, and you know. And this is where we were at. Well, a week later after that rally, we were up on the University of California in Berkeley, California, around that area, Telegraph Avenue, south of Sailor's Gate, what have you. And we were really up there checking out some blues records and stuff because young white kids and others got really interested in all the blues and the music, the history and stuff of us young black folks, et cetera. And they had the record boutiques and stuff. They had even old historical kind of stuff. And then we were walking down the streets, hordes of people at night, 9:15, 9:20, up and down the sidewalks at Telegraph Avenue. And we walked down 3 or 4 blocks. Huey was with us. My brother John Seale was with us, and another student friend from Merritt College, et cetera. And as we got down there, Huey said, recite your poem, the one you did at the rally. I said, man, I don't want to recite this poem out here at a night like this here. Oh, come on. Weezy, you got to hear this, man. This Bobby is the great orator. I said, ain't no damn great orator, man. You know, boom, boom, boom. I said, I ain't gonna do that, man. Boom, boom, boom. And they kept going. We kept walking. We got down around Hearst and Telegraph, and he insisted. I said, okay, damn it. So I stood out by the parking meter, hordes of people walking by, and I shouted out, Uncle Sammy called me for the Lucifer. Well, I don't give a good eagle-eyed, and the crowd stopped. Eagle-eyed damn for I feel his spark stick. And a tall, big guy with a chair, tall, big, bush-headed white guy with a chair, and as he came out, he said, hey, man, had a marijuana cigarette in his hand. Hey, man, I was sitting there, man, and the vibes, I said, hey, man, get the smoke out of my face, man. And boom, 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 he says, look, man, I says, okay, I'll stand on the chair. Shit, God damn it. So I stand up on the chair, and the crowd had stopped. So I went on to recite this poem. This is an anti-war poem. Uncle Sammy called me for the Lucifer. Well, I don't give a good eagle-eyed, McPleagle, triple whammy damn for I feel his small stick will not serve. Uncle Sammy, don't shuck and jive me. I'm hip to popcorn jazz changes you blow. You know damn well what I mean. You school my naive heart to sing red, white, and blue stars and striped songs and to pledge eternal allegiance to all things blue, true, blue-eyed, blonde-haired, white chalk, white skin with USA tattooed all over. When my soul trusted Uncle Sammy and loved Uncle Sammy, I died in dreams playing war for you, Uncle Sammy. You jammed your emasculate manhood symbol puffed with gonorrhea of corrupt, unreality myths into my ungreased nigger ghetto black ass of my Jewish, Catholic, Hindu, Islamic Sioux. What? Sure, free public health penicillin cured me. But Uncle Sammy, if you want to stay a freak show strongman God, fuck your motherfucking self. I would not serve. Now, that poem, I recited that. The crowd said, more. I get off the chair. When I get off the chair, Yellow T-shirt comes over. I don't know who Yellow T-shirt is. He got a nice crew cut, et cetera, boom, boom, boom. He's got a yellow T-shirt and jeans on. And he grabs my arm. He says, you use obscene language. I says, no, I just said, motherfucker, four-letter word. And he said, but this obscene, I said, man, get out of my face. The free speech movement through the Supreme Court said we got a right to say the four-letter word fuck if we want to. You know, it's freedom of expression, which had been run. They had won this in the Supreme Court, right? So there was, suddenly this crowd is moving. A uniformed police waded through the crowd and grabbed the back of my jacket that slipped off. And when they slipped off, Yellow T-shirt attacked me. And he hit me in the stomach with his body and knocked the wind out of me. And we rolled out onto into the intersection, and 4 or 5 other undercovers. I didn't know these guys were all undercover cops. They were beating the shit out of me. I mean, et cetera. I said, damn, I'm getting lynched here at the University of California, Berkeley. And my brother John Seale came in, him and some other guys, another Asian guy and 2 other hippies, and started kicking. They knew these guys were undercovers. They started kicking these guys off of me. And when I got up, Yellow T-shirt came at me again, and so I pulled his knife out, and what's your name came in there, and you use obscene language. I said, fuck you, you know. And I swung out at him. I cut him in the hand. Make a long story short, we all got arrested. It sent us to jail. But I worked for the city government at this time, too, you know what I mean? And, of course, I got bailed out. I told my wife to get some of that money out there. I left you in the house to get down here and bail my ass out of jail. Huey had to let his parole officer get him out, what have you. And we wound up in front of a judge in October, Judge Stats, Alameda County. And I told you after the preliminary hearing, and Judge Stats gave us probation. I was shocked that he did it. But I blew. I says, "You're Judge Stats?" I says, "Now I work for the city government of Oakland." I says, "And them police lied. The guy said I use obscene language. That's why he was stopping me." I said, "In the preliminary hearing, he says he told you I argued with him about blocking the sidewalk." I said, he's lied. I says, "Now Huey here, I hired him. You know," I says, "he's my assistant. Now, he's going to law school." I said, "It's not right." I said, "We're doing a no contest plea here, but it's not right. Huey says he's already researched it. We could get 1 to 10 years. He's in law school." I said, "You just said, I just feel that you should consider it." Anyway, judge says, "Okay, I'm gonna let you guys go. Probation." I says, "Oh, good, bang." And I says, "Huey, come on, let's go." We got downstairs. I said, "Meet me tonight at the War on Poverty office." I says, "Meet me tonight." I said, "We took some notes at my house. We said we was gonna write a program. We're gonna start the new organization. We could have been in jail 1 to 10 years, man." I says, "We're gonna start this goddamn organization." Shit. And we went down there and started trying to finish that darn 10-point program concept, et cetera, and blow. At any rate, we finished that thing about October 22nd. Didn't have a name for it. The whole 10-point program, you know. I'm ready to print this thing, you know. And finally, Huey happened to come by and was going to Boat Hall, the law school up there at the University of California. Actually, Huey's law school was in San Francisco. It's a private law school. But he would go to Boat Hall, which is the law library, to do his research. Anyway, when he got back, he was talking about a Black Panther if you push him in the corner. And I said, "If you push him in the corner, what?" He said, "Well, the nature of a panther is if you put it in the corner, it says sooner or later it's going to come out of that corner." I says, "Oh, you was reading this up?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "Well," I said, "I don't know what." I says, "I don't know. We need to name this goddamn organization now. I don't know what to do." And so I says, "Why don't we just call it the Black Panther Party?" He said, "Oh, yeah, good. Maybe that's a good idea, Black Panther Party." I said, "But we said we're going to stand for self-defense." I said, "We didn't call it Black Panther Party for self-defense." Boom, boom. "Okay, fine. Boom, 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 boom. I'll see you later on tonight." I say, at the War on Poverty office down there. And so I went down to War on Poverty. I run off 1,000 copies of, you know, back in them days, if you guys know what I mean, we didn't have computers and stuff. The primary thing we had was an A.B. Dick machine. You remember those A.B. Dick machines? Everybody had an A.B. Dick. And every organizational group, you know, to put out your information. And that's what happened. And we finished that 10-point platform and program October 22nd. And I did not know it was my birthday. I had not paid attention to it. When I got back to my house to store this stuff in my car, I says, "What are these cars doing down here?" I said, "Merritt College is closed." I says, "And it's after 10:30. What's going on?" And I get to my house and got the door open, and suddenly the lights come on, and all my friends and everybody's there. It's my birthday. My sister and brother. It was my birthday. Anyway, that's the founding of the Black Panther Party, October 22nd, 1936. Patrolling the police. Patrolling and observing the police was a tactic to capture the imagination of the people. Huey, I tell Huey, and Huey tell me, but I tell Huey. So when we capture the imagination of the people, I'm gonna organize them into a political electoral machine because we need to get more political seats for real political power. That's why we did that. But I made Huey research every law on the guns, everyone, and come bring them back to me, and we're gonna sit there and go through that. I found a whole lot of little loose laws if you didn't know what you were doing. You know what I mean? For instance, we found that you cannot point a loaded weapon at a person, even if you're playing around and have no intention of shooting. And if it has a live round in the chamber, inadvertently, you know, it constitutes assault with a deadly weapon under California law at the time. It says, wow. And if you're riding in a car, you cannot have a live round in the chamber where it could be fired. And several other laws. We had all of this stuff down. And Huey had researched some Supreme Court rulings and all that kind of stuff. So by January, the second week of January, we are out there patrolling police one night, and we down on 7th Street, the nightlife district, big wide street, 3 lanes this way, 3 lanes this way, plus parking. And whatever, we saw the cop down there stop somebody a block away, so we parked our cars illegally and all that kind of stuff. Got out of the 2 cars. There's 14 of us, 7 in each car, crowded, etc. Half of us had long guns, and some of them haven't. Remember, I done trained these people with these guns, how to function with guns. You couldn't just pick up a gun. You couldn't come in my organization talking about, I'm bad, I got my stuff. Shut up and sit down so you understand, one, the safety of guns. Guns are used for a particular situation, a particular person. This for self-defense if necessary. You see, a year earlier when the Watts riots happened, after the Watts riots happened, there was a group in Los Angeles, California, 400 miles south of the San Francisco Oakland Bay Area where we live. There was a group down there called CAP, Community Alert Patrol, of adults standing around trying to observe police after the Watts riots, because it was the brutal beating of a black mother in the Watts community that caused the Watts riot. Now, I never liked riots. I hated riots. Boom, and it was that 1965 Watts riots that, 65 was killed, 200 was wounded, and 5,000 arrested. That was in 65. I didn't create the Black Panther Party to 66. You see what I'm getting at? My thing is, how can I organize 5,000 brothers and sisters into a political electoral machine so we can take over more political spots? That was where I was coming from. And that is where it was at. So that night, as we walked down, cop was in his car, his passenger side door was open, his arrestee was standing at the back with his hand on the trunk. I got one female with me, Geraldine, Huey and me and some other people, 14 of us. We walked up. The cop was kind of out into the streets in the 3rd lane, and we at the curb. Nightlife district, Slim Jenkins nightclub, a grocery store, and a liquor store, and nightlife, 9:30 or something like that. And we walk up, so it caused 30 or 40 people to stop, look, and see what the hell we's going. These guys with all these guns. And I mean, I made them dress. I told them, you're going to take a shower, you're going to take a bath tomorrow night, and you don't want to be stinking and stuff. How come we got to take a shower to just patrol some old funky cops? I said, because we ain't blippies. What the hell is a blippy? I say, a black hippie that don't take no bath. I says, you're going to get out here. You know, I believed in organizing, et cetera, right down to making sure you don't stink, you know what I mean? And I says, well, we got to take, I says, yes, you got to take a bath. You bring your ass down there, come talking about we going to organize you, and if you stinking, them black folks can say, you better go organize some soap under your ass before you come out here. So, I mean, I tell you, I taught them everything I knew. I mean, how to break down an M1 carbine and put it back together. I mean, I learned that in the military service. But I was proficient with guns when I was 12 years old. I owned my own .30-30 Winchester high-powered rifle, hunting deer, bear, what have you, et cetera. So guns was secondary to me in the sense that they were tools, you know, for hunting, what have you, et cetera, primarily. There we were, though, that night, walking out, some nice sister, well-dressed, had stepped out of Slim Jenkins nightclub. She had a cocktail glass in her hand as we came down. We had our little uniforms on. Everybody was neat, et cetera. She says, well, you young people look spiffy with your guns and everything. Boom. Other people standing around there. And as we walked up, the cop was sitting in his passenger seat with the door open, but he was talking on his radio, right? And he hadn't looked up. And then an old man came out of the grocery store, I think he did. And he says, what they got in their hands? It's nighttime. They got sticks in their hand. Well, 7 of the guys had rifles, you know what I mean, and shotguns, you know. And this other tall guy over here, he says, told him, man, be quiet. That's them guns. The old man said, guns? I'm getting out of here. So Huey said, turns around, no one leave, everyone stand here. You have a constitutional right to stand here and observe these policemen who've been brutalizing us in the community. And boom, and that got the policeman's attention. And he got out of the car, and as Huey turns around, he says, you have no right to observe me. This is us. No California State Supreme Court ruling states that every, wait a minute, listen to me. No California State Supreme Court ruling states that every citizen has a right to stand and observe a police officer carrying out their duty as long as they stand a reasonable distance away. A reasonable distance in that particular room is constituted as 8 to 10 feet. We're standing approximately 20 feet from you, and we'll observe you whether you like it or not. And the sister who had walked out of Slim Jenkins, she says, well, go ahead on and tell it. Say it again. Say it again. Excuse me. And the cop says, is that gun loaded? Huey said, if I know it's loaded, it's good enough. Well, I have, Huey says, you have no right. Huey cited something from United States Supreme Court versus whoever, so and so and so and so. You cannot remove my property from it without due process of law. Step back, you cannot touch my weapon. And this tall brother over there, he said, man, what kind of Negroes is these? So it had never been done. It was so disciplined and well put together. We did not do this every night. You have to imagine that. But do you know word of mouth got all over the San Francisco Oakland Bay area about this stuff? Yeah, Bobby Seale, tell him to come over here. The police is always brutal. Come to San Francisco. I'm telling you, we did a couple other patrols and had some close confrontations with the police, but there were never no shootouts. Was never no shootouts in this situation. We had our guns, we know when to shoot them, when not to shoot them. It wasn't about just going out there shooting somebody, it wasn't. To demonstrate to them that we got the law on our side, we using it, and we got our guns to defend ourselves if you attack us. And they were loaded. People thought we were there. Everyone, all our guns were loaded. My point is this here, is that this patrolling the police, that was in January, the second week of January, that we had finally got to that patrolling the police like that. And ultimately, it caused the state legislature to start trying to put a bill in against us patrolling the police. We were legal. We were so legal it was a crying shame, and they knew it. They had to try to make a law against us. And when we found out that they was doing that, I led an armed delegation of us Panthers and other people working with us to the California State Legislature, some 30 people, and to protest against the pending piece of legislation to try to stop us from patrolling police. And it took the end of May for them to try to pass the law. And they could not just say you can't carry a gun, because if you couldn't carry a gun, then that was infringing on who? The NRA. The NRA ain't gonna let you do that, you know what I mean? So with the law they came up with read like this: no one could carry a loaded weapon inside city limits within 150 feet of public property, inside city limits. Public property included all roadways and byways, which meant if I'd have to be 150 feet from public sidewalk before I can load my gun, okay? That was the law that passed. It didn't, so that did not stop hunters, you see what I'm getting at, and stuff. And nobody never got arrested for that I know of, you know, but that's what they did. But it stopped us because we were not gonna go out there with unloaded guns. But the fact that I went to the California State Legislature, went around the world. We were on, I'm telling you, we went around the world. We had international notoriety. I only had 28, 29 members in the Black Panther Party. That's all I had. I mean, we didn't have no chapters, no branches or anything at this time. And that was the thing. Now, a lot of stuff happened after that. You know, in '69, they attacked us, what have you. By the end of 1969, they had killed Fred Hampton, Mark Clark. In the early part of '69, they killed Bunchy Carter and John Huggins. They had attacked 22 offices of the Black Panther Party all across America, FBI and police working together to do this, et cetera, and so on. And they put me in jail. They put me in jail in '69 in August. I had put a community control of police on the ballot, a measure in Berkeley, California. So they saw what we were up to, you know what I mean? We were up to changing legislation. We were a political organization. We were a political party, and that I was organizing to run more people for political office. And I could go on and on and on and on. Present day, as we exist, the applicability of my 10-point platform and program is applicable today. I'm trying to do my own movie and my own film, and I'm going to try to extend it from a 10-point program to a 35.8 program, because we got a whole lot of problems with climate change, et cetera, and dumb people in government denying it, trying to say, you know, I mean, our kid, well, we black, white, blue, red, green, yellow, polka dot. When the environment goes, we all go. You know what I mean? It ain't about whether my ethnicity versus your ethnicity or religious belief, et cetera. So we got to change this, you know. And this coalition politics, I made coalition politics one of the key examples of my organization. I had developed coalition politics not only with SCLC and Martin Luther King before he was killed, and NAACP and other peoples and other organizations. We was coalesced with at least 39 different organizations. 22 of those organizations were people of color. The rest of them were liberal organizations, white left organizations, what have you, et cetera. And that was it. That's what really scared the power structure, because we crossed those ethnic lines in relation to what the human liberation struggle was about, you know what I mean? Everything from women's rights to whoever was involved, gay rights, et cetera. I supported gay rights, et cetera, back then. I mean, I'm a heterosexual, but my point is I'm not gonna run around here trying to hate some other group of what, I mean, that's absurd. They are human beings and part of our Homo sapien family of humanity. So that's what my struggle has been about. It still is. I'm trying to get my film done. Spielberg and them are doing a film on Chicago 7. They really announced this thing 10 years ago. And then there was a writer's strike, and they canned it for a while. And then finally they've written a script back then. And of course, the great Chicago 7 conspiracy trial. When he first announced it 10 years ago, he was gonna have Will Smith play Bobby Seale, you know what I mean? Well, yeah, but I think they give some other kid the deal or whatever, et cetera. But they haven't contacted me because this is a public trial. They can make it anyway, and they're gonna get it wrong. I know they're gonna get it wrong. Because I know I wrote my own screenplays, you know what I mean? And I taught myself how to write a real screenplay, not a story, a screenplay with slug lines and everything, you know? So this human liberation struggle is in your face with Bush and others. You see it all around the world, et cetera, what's going on, et cetera. These avaricious corporate money-rich idiots want to run everything. What we got to do is get out there and we take our little few dollars and we'll endorse some real independent candidate. And I'm not talking about no billionaire candidates. I want some real grassrootsy, loving people. More and more women. I want women of all ethnicities and colors to come in there, and you got to come in there with your progressive hearts, minds, and souls. I mean, you're so key to life existence on the face of the earth. And this is the key to it, you know what I mean? Now, they killed 28 of my people by the end of 1969. In the process, we defended ourselves. And we killed 14 of them cops. You know, I still got 12 or 14 political prisoners in jail today. You know what I mean? We got some of them out. You know, we opened Geronimo Pratt. We got him out some time ago. Me, Kathleen Cleveland, others. What's your name in Maryland? He was gotten out, and a couple more came out. But we still got political prisoners from those battles in 1969, that year when they attacked us. That was the year. And my research for my film out of Vanderbilt University was one of the top archival places for all that stuff, the anti-war, the protest movement, et cetera. Nixon administration. I found for my doc that I was doing, my documentary, the telephone call that Nixon had with J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar, when are you going to get rid of these damn Black Panthers for me? I mean, what's going on here? He said, well, sir, we've been trying. Well, yeah, I want you to get rid of them now. Now, John Mitchell's going to be calling you. He says, yes, sir. John Mitchell's the United States Attorney General, and Nixon is the time. John Mitchell's going to be calling you, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. And then 2 weeks later, who's on the national media and the television? John Mitchell. By the end of this 1969 year, we'll be rid of these damn Black Panthers. We ain't even been charged with shit yet. I mean, you know what I mean? This is the game, you know. But they attacked over 22 of my offices in this country, all across the United States of America. Des Moines, Iowa, they blew up the building. The office was a place where 2 or 3 different peoples used, and you closed it at night, and nobody was there. They blew up that building where the Black Panthers had their office in Des Moines, Iowa alone. Others, they just came in shooting. They didn't come in saying you under arrest, surrender, nothing. They didn't do that. They didn't want that. Because they know we had a policy that if it's just a formal arrest, we'll take the arrest. You know, and we ain't not scared of the courtroom. We're going to make a forum out of the courtroom when we get there. You know what I mean? Which is what happened when the Great Chicago 7 conspiracy trial, they put me on trial with my old left radical buddies, Jerry Rubin and Abby Hoffman and Rennie Davis and the rest of them. And Spielberg and them making them film. They should be out next year with this, but they haven't contacted me. So Bobby Seale has to do his own independent film. You see what I'm getting at? And I'm going to need you and everybody else to support me, and I'm going to launch a major program, Bobby Seale, developing his own independent film, because all these other people, now I don't know about Spielberg, but all these other people who are trying to do so-called films are coming up with a whole bunch of COINTELPRO, the FBI counterintelligence program crap and lies that they have propagated for years out there against me and my Black Panther Party. I created that party. I organized that party all across the United States of America while Huey Newton sit in jail for 3 years. Huey didn't organize that. I'm the one who had the face-to-face relationship. From the time they killed Dr. King, I only had 400 members. They murdered Dr. King and assassinated him April the 4th, 1968. From April the 4th, 1968 to November, the election day in 1968 when Nixon was elected that same year. 7 months. From April 4th to the time Nixon was elected, my organization swole across this country. Young black folks were so angry they started joining the organization. They wanted chapters and branches. I tried to go to every last one of them. I taught my party members how to do grassroots community organizing with the basic dialectical principle called quantitative increase, quantitative decrease, called a qualitative leap or change. Hegel and stuff like this, but I'm breaking this stuff down for people to understand how to organize. Let's look at the math of it all. You see what I mean? There's a math you're doing here. Increase, decrease, addition, and subtraction. Boom, boom, boom. Quantitative increase, quantitative decrease causes a qualitative leap or change. That's my PE class. When you in my PE class, this is what you learn. You don't learn this stuff. I don't play the race card. We didn't have no time for that. You know what I mean? And just balling out white folks for they did this and they did that, boom, 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 boom. What I want to do is I want to get down to the nitty-gritty and take over some of these goddamn political seats, and that's where I was coming from. And so the same thing, we now have over 20,000 black politicians and people of color power, plus many women, et cetera. But what we need now is more and more and more grounded, dedicated, progressive politician with all the progressive issues and programs that need to be implemented in this country, inclusive of alternative energy and climate change, infrastructure, et cetera. That's what we need now. We need progressive, whether you're black, white, blue, red, green, yellow, or polka dot, get down to the nitty-gritty, bring yourself home, get your education because we need it, watch more of MSNBC because they're more factual, and Lemon and Como, they're good too, they're factual. You know, we didn't have these people in the 60s, and we got it. So we live in an overdeveloped, high-tech, fast-paced, computerized, scientific, technological social order. It is not the 1960s anymore. You know what I mean? It's going to the future. You know, I like the idea of venturing in space and seeing that thing. I love to see humanity get there, you know what I mean? But if we don't change this stuff, get this climate straightened out, et cetera, change our system, et cetera, make sure that affordable health care and affordable community cooperative housing. My last program now that I have now is environmental renovation youth jobs projects, grounded as a nonprofit entity, et cetera, and boom. So I'm gonna do my movie, my film, et cetera. I'm gonna ask people to help me out on this, et cetera, buy my books, et cetera, and so on, et cetera. And I'm gonna tell my life story, and so the young folks will know all the ins and outs and where you go from here with erecting a broad, more profound, progressive human liberation framework for all of us, all of our humanity, and all of our existence here on the face of the earth. Power to the people. Thank you very much.
That was excellent. We have some questions to take for you? All right. I do want to say I'm very glad I didn't wear my yellow t-shirt tonight. Sorry about that. Okay, we are going to take some questions. We have a few minutes. We'd like to get in as many as we can. You have a question? All right. I will get right over here. Just do me a favor, tell me your name and ask your question.
My name is Wanda Daniel. Black Power,
Why can't I see you?
all power to the people.
I know, but where are you?
Right over here. Over here, to your left. To your left.
I'm a big old woman.
Go ahead and ask your question, ma'am.
Yes, I would just like to say it's an honor and it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm a cub of a Black Panther. My mother was in the DC chapter.
Okay.
And I'm a native of Flint, Michigan, and we are the Black Panther Party in our city. We are the Black Panther Party of the city of Flint. And we wanted the community to know that we're here. We've been out here for 2 years. We feed and clothe and shelter our community. If you're interested, please contact me. Talk to one of us afterwards. You know, we're looking for strong soldiers, just like you said, and I really would be honored if you had a moment to do us a personal swearing in.
Oh, okay, I'm trying to figure out how to answer your question. You're feeding the people, that's good. At the same time, you have to relate to what I did is I fed the people too. One of the reasons I won my trial was the free food programs and the free breakfast for children program. In my trial, my second trial, when they anyway, that's another program. Everything that I did with programs in the community was connected with voter registration. Voter registration. You know, just when you look at the fact that in all these many places, they're trying to repress the vote, that should tell every last one of us, God damn it, let's hang on to our vote. Let's stop this voter repression. In other words, if they repress the vote, they can more easily oppress you. You see what I mean? So what we do is we're going to pull the vote together. We're going to get all the progressive programs that has to exist, from the union workers to the grassroots communities to community cooperative housing to getting infrastructure. We need that infrastructure real bad. We need it because what it'll do, instead of $1.5 trillion going to the avaricious corporate money rich, $1.5 trillion need to go to infrastructure plus another $1 trillion connected with that for ecology, climate change, and developing jobs and programs for alternative energy programs. That's what's got to happen, you know? So feed the people, do that, and serve them, but also make sure that what you're doing is you organizing people politically, you're getting candidates, grassroots people's candidates, you know, and doing that. Next question.
Bob, we've got a question right here.
Good evening. Quincy Murphy. I'm a community activist here in the city of Flint. And probably 2 years ago, I was the one who filed a recall to the recall language to recall our governor who poisoned us in the city of Flint through this emergency manager, and we fought to repeal Public Act 72. And I go down to city council, and I just want to thank you because you have inspired me to keep on fighting. Right now, we organizing a rally to protest the NAACP. They have people on there that don't speak for all people. So I just want to say thank you for inspiring me to keep going.
What was that about the NAACP?
Oh, we getting ready to protest the NAACP. They got a vice president on there that
You want to protest the NAACP?
They have a leader on there that when a person of a sexual orientation that wasn't to their satisfaction was running for Attorney General for the city of Flint, they was out here gay bashing.
Okay, I don't know. That's I thank you. That's your program. I don't know.
Got another question right here for you?
Yeah.
Good to talk to you. My name is Omari Sankofa, and I'm from Detroit, former member of the New African Peoples Organization. And so black nationalists for a long time turned away from electoral politics, and there would be talks about not running for public office. That has changed with the, I guess, the realization that nationhood was not going to happen within the boundaries of the United States. But Chokwe Lumumba ran for office and won mayor in Jackson, Mississippi, and upon his death, his son ran for his open seat, lost the runoff election, but then was elected in the next election. And so I don't know if you've had discussions or talks with any of those who you would call progressive or who come from a black nationalist perspective in the electoral office and what their perspectives might be like a Chokwe Lumumba or a Bobby Rush.
No, I'm trying to understand your question or your statement.
You talk about running for office.
Yeah.
I said, have you had discussions with folks who come from a background like yours, like a Bobby Rush or a Chokwe Lumumba, who have been elected to office?
Yes, I know Bobby Rush very well. I mean, Bobby Rush come out of the Illinois State Chapter. He and Fred Hampton had flew out to California to start a chapter in Chicago, and of course, you know, Fred Hampton was murdered December the 4th, along with other party members who were wounded, and they attacked his apartment, not the office. And of course, Bobby Rush evolved to be a United States Congressman. The other female, there's a female who worked with the Black Panther Party in the early days, who's also prominent in the House of Representatives. Her name is Congresswoman Barbara Lee. You don't know about Barbara Lee, you know, but Barbara Lee, she worked with the Black Panther Party in the very early days. She said, I put her out in the field with 20 other people, registering people to vote. I said, I did? She says, yes, you did. She said, that started my political career. I said, right on, Barbara. So I'm just, And Barbara is a a great organizer. We get a lot of programs and stuff. You know, her vote, 82% of the people who vote in her congressional district vote for her every year. So she's pretty permanent there in the Oakland Berkeley community with us. There are other progressive people too, out of Los Angeles and other places all across the country. By the way, you know, there's over 20,000 black folks duly elected to political office today. What we need is more and more progressive, very progressive-minded people being duly elected. Next question.
Right
please.
over here on your right.
Gotcha. Hello, Mr. Bobby Seale. My name is Tyler McKinley-Joyce. I am a proud member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated Epsilon Mu
Phi
Chapter.
Beta Sigma?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
All right. First of all, I'm just glad and grateful for you to be in the present right in front of me. Like, I'm just blessed for you to be here and be on this campus, University of Michigan-Flint. One question I always wanted to ask, which I never got to ask, was, of course, you having a friend of Mr. Huey P. Newton. I'm sorry, I'm just a little nervous. Huey P. Newton, also former Sigma brother. What strong characteristic of you and Mr. Huey P. Newton that you guys shared that recruited members of the Black Panther Party?
Well, I recruited to put people in the Black Panther Party. Huey was in jail, prison. Through the first year of the Black Panther Party, there was never no more than 50 people that was in the Black Panther Party for short periods. When I went to jail for 6 months in July of 1967, Huey and them lost the office that I had put up. Well, they just didn't have the resources. They didn't have the jobs. They didn't have the income, the money, et cetera, et cetera. You know, they didn't, boom. So Huey went to jail when Officer Fry tried to kill Huey. He shot Huey. He was the first shot, as I've told you earlier. But Huey come out of jail while I was in jail. So Huey and I were separated from what? From July 1967 to 1970, 71 to 1971 May. Understand that. But while Huey was in jail, I built the Black Panther Party and recruited, or people rushed into the party, and I politically educated them because I was not in jail. You understand that? I had a lot of face-to-face relationship. I had over 5,000 people rush to join the party. The reason they rushed to join the party was because they killed Dr. Martin Luther King. I was trying to say that to you. Before that, I only had 400 members up and down the West Coast. Huey was in jail when I organized those 400. You see what I'm getting at? And then they killed Dr. King. And between April 4th, when Dr. King was assassinated, to the day that Nixon got elected, in a 7-month period, my organization swole from 400 members up and down the West Coast to 5,000 members across the United States in 49 chapters, branches, and neighborhoods. That is office operations of the Black Panther Party. That's what happened. And I went to practically all of these churches to teach them the grassroots things of the Black Panther Party. So recruiting is one thing, but it's politically educating the people. I politically educated the brothers and sisters to grassroots community organizing in a most profound way. So those breakfast programs with voter registration drive, the 6-cell anemia testing program with voter registration drive, free preventative medical health clinics with voter registration drive, and in Winston-Salem, the brothers and sisters down there, they had all those programs, and then they implemented a free ambulance program. They got grants, everything. I'm trying to tell you, and voter registration. And finally, those young brothers and sisters wound up on the city council of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. You see? So there's a lot of examples. You call recruiting, I don't call it recruiting so much as political education so you can get a sense of what we're doing and how we're fighting and how we need to take over more political power seats. That was what it was, but thank you.
Right over here to your right.
How you doing? My name is Demetrius Harrison. 23 years old. You know, I grew up watching the Black Panther Party, and it inspired me much. And when I hear you talk about political seats, it reminds me much of the argument between Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois, where W.E.B. Du Bois said to fight for more political power, and Booker T. Washington was said to fight for more economic independence amongst the black community. So do you feel like focusing more on political power could leave us vulnerable to not having as much economic power as well?
Well, the whole point is we didn't have economic power. We had, in those days, I mean, the Niagara movement kicked off early 1900s, and then my mother was born. I don't know. I don't know if there's an argument there. I don't understand. I mean, political power we didn't have. We was beginning to get it in Reconstruction period because those were the first time blacks would start being elected to offices, especially state level offices. And then when the Northern Union pulled out of the South, it left it up, and then the old oligarchs start taking over the political seats. You know what I mean? Maybe I didn't understand your question, but it's a profound piece of history. The blacks were without any influence politically. The argument between Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois, I don't know how to answer your question. All of it. You build businesses, and you build business. Wait a minute. And you build businesses and everything. I mean, it's not either or. It's interconnected and interrelated. I mean, when I say we live in an overdeveloped, high-tech, fast-paced, computerized, scientific, technological, social order. We're not living in the 60s. We're not living in here whether we have businesses or not. Yeah, you're going to need businesses there. When I come out of jail, I went into the movie theater business on the one part of the party. I went into the public sponsoring of major programs at the Oakland Auditorium to raise money for the Black Panther Party's operations, and so on, you know. That's a business. At the same time, I did other political organizing. It's not about either or. Either or is thing. We have to have income. We have to have stable frameworks, et cetera. Now, I like building nonprofit entity frameworks, you see what I mean? And our mom and pop programs, I support mom and pop programs and businesses and frameworks in the community because they can work closer with us as the people on the grassroots level. But it's about community control politics, greater community control. You heard about states' rights and all that stuff in the Constitution. In the final analysis, I made the big argument. I mean, I was against state control, command economy socialism. That was Stalinism, you know what I mean? I'm not looking for Stalinism. When I started the Black Panther Party, I did not know any socialism. Had never read any socialism, you know what I mean? Not till 1968, we brought Brother Ray Messiah Hewitt up from Los Angeles. And come to find out, he's a righteous Marxist-Leninist. And he fed a lot of information. I says, okay, fine. And then they looked up one day, and Ray Messiah Hewitt, he's a nice brother, a good brother, he put Stalin's picture up in our goddamn office. And I had just finished reading about Stalin. I didn't like nobody like Stalin. I couldn't stand Stalin from what I heard about him. Yeah, he fought Hitler. He was supposed to fight Hitler and all that kind of stuff, but it helped kick his ass. But my point is, he was a fascist in his own right. Stalin was, you see what I mean? So I said, who put this goddamn picture up there? They said, Ray Messiah Hewitt put it up there. And I says, who but? And then somebody, and then Ray said, Bobby, everybody, Huey wants it up there, and Eldred wants it up there, and I says, and Bunchy, I said, he's on my central committee. He says, yeah. I said, is that right? I said, what did Bunchy say? So Bunchy said, well, I guess so. Boom, 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 boom. And I said, y'all got to get that goddamn picture down. So in other words, I was supposedly outvoted. I'm the key to calling a central committee meeting. I'm chairman of the Black Panther Party. Boom, 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 boom. So I happened to be up around People's Park protests around University of California at the time. And in another friend's place, a couple of blocks away somewhere, they had a nice big backyard, and they had an art sale of some kind, and people do art stuff and painting art and you know, chalk art, whatever, et cetera. So I went to look at the art sale, and somebody had did an art painting of my buddy Huey P. Newton. I said, whoa, I said, where you get this from? Who did this? So the guy come over, and you have to understand, at this time, my big-time donor to the Black Panther Party was none other than Mr. Marlon Brando, the movie actor Marlon Brando. I mean, I walk around with $5,000, $6,000. I call him Marlon, I say, I need $5,000, he shoot it to me. I need $3,000, he shoot it to me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Over a period of time, Marlon Brando must have donated over $60,000. But I'm walking around looking at this picture, and I got the guy over there. I says, how much you want for this picture? I pulled my money out. He says, Bobby, you can have it. I said, I can? I said, yeah. I said, you got something for me to carry it in? Gave me some kind of velvet bag, et cetera, boom, boom, boom. I took the picture. I called me a big central committee meeting. All the chapters and all the branches, I want somebody from every last one of them all up and down the West Coast. Los Angeles, Fresno, Frisco, Vallejo, Sacramento, get down here. So I had about 150 brothers and sisters down there for that night. They got Stalin's picture up there. I said, this meeting here is to get a consensus from the party and the party members with the central committee here and members of the central committee here, et cetera, blah, 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 blah. I says, now, you see Stalin's picture up here. I said, but who is the most necessary, important person at this time for leading our organization? You are, Chairman, you. I said, no, okay. I said, who's the most important person in our organization? I says, Huey Newton, right? I said, yeah, brother Huey Newton, free Huey Newton. I said, so would you rather have Stalin's picture up here and then I pull out this oil paint, or would you rather have Huey Newton's picture up here? And they say, Huey. And Bunchy, you know Bunchy Carter, he ran the Los Angeles chapter of the Black Panther Party. He said, Chairman, yeah, you right, Huey. He says, now, do this picture have to stay here at headquarters? I says, no, you want to keep it in your office for a month? He says, yeah. I says, all right, anybody who want to keep this, sign up, I'll just, et cetera, boom, boom, boom. And boom. So I got rid of Stalin. I didn't like Stalin. State control, Politburo, state control, command economy, socialism. Now, I started reading socialism, and that was no socialism. That, I don't care. He fought here, but I didn't like Stalin. I got rid of that shit, you know.
Bob, we have another question up here.
I'm telling you, you have these ideological conflicts with people, you know. And while these guys was talking about Politburo, I'm talking about greater community control, constitutional democratic community control, more community control. I'm talking about on the grassroots level, not just city government, but evolving businesses of one kind or another, private mom and pop businesses, and also nonprofit entity business frameworks. You see what I mean? And that's, let's evolve more of those all across the country on the community basis. Now, you have larger programs. My nonprofit entity right now is the Environmental Renovation Youth Jobs Projects. It's not only going to help create jobs, but I'm looking at this and I'm looking for and hoping for the infrastructure framework. So I'm introducing young black men in the grassroots community to building and construction, which is very important. So That's me. I'm a builder. I'm a constructor. I'm an architect. You see what I mean? So this is important to me. So even build enough of it to where they learn to build their own houses. I want to take a grant. I want to get me a $100, $200, $300 million grant. I want to buy up land under a nonprofit entity framework. And when I buy up land and stuff like this here and make assessments of the land, soil, et cetera, boom, 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 we're going to design community cooperative housing. I mean, and that means you're going to have affordable. As long as it's under a nonprofit and you have affordable community cooperative housing. You see what I mean? That's what's got to spread. So greater amount of affordable community cooperative housing is going to negate the excessive, expensive housing and frameworks in the country. We're talking about the masses of the people and having that kind of community control of those kind of economics and building housing. That's where I'm coming from. So that's hopefully answer your question.
All right, they're telling me we have time for one more question. I do want to remind folks that you still have some books out there that are signed.
I got,
we want to make sure we get
6, 7,
them.
8, 9, 10 books out there. You guys want these books. You look, when you buy a book from me or if you order it from myself, you're helping me with my program. I mean, I got a film to do, a documentary to do.
All right, let's go to this question, Bobby.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being here. My name is Bridget Jackson. I actually am the niece of Mark Clark. I thank you so much for...
You're the niece of Mark Clark?
Yes, sir.
Okay, young lady, go ahead.
I thank you so much for being here, and I thank you for inspiring my uncle. He came back and started the Peoria chapter, and then, of course, you know, he was assassinated.
Right.
Weeks before he left, he pointed to me and said, he told my mom tried to get him not to go. I'm doing this because I want her to have a better life. At the time, I was a little girl, and I have. I'm an educator now, and I'm very thankful for his legacy. I hate that he's gone, but I'm thankful for the legacy. And what I wanted to ask you, I'm an educator, I've been an educator for almost 30 years. I know we've been talking about the politics and we're talking about the economics, but our youth that are coming behind us is so very, very important. I just want you to touch on what would you say to this audience to help inspire? We gotta get our youth empowered. That was one of the main things that was done. I know my uncle did it in Peoria. He made sure that, again, the young people were learning. And so I want to just say that. And again, thank you for being here tonight.
Well, thank you. Yes, ma'am. So it's the same old program. You train and you educate the youth in frameworks that you set up in the community, and you train and educate them around what our constitutional, democratic, civil, human rights are, so they instill in their head and their understanding of it. You know what I mean? You know, I took first 3 paragraphs or so from the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America. And when you read it real close, in one particular clause in the 3rd paragraph, it says, when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursues and invariably evinces a design to reduce a people under absolute despotism, then it is the right of the people to alter or change that government and provide new guards for their future security and happiness. So it's about training and teaching our youth about these constitutional, democratic, civil, human rights of the people and the responsibility we take. Yeah, we went on with the college education, et cetera, and so on, et cetera. But they have to help them identify really with this continuing human liberation struggle, our youth, in every facet and way that we can put that over. It's like, I'm 82. I already checked, I'll make 90 something unless some dumb crap happens. My mother lived 34 days, she would have turned 100 when she died. My great-grandma, Grandma Winnie, I saw her when I was 14 in Texas. She went outside and fed the chicken, some grain out there. my great-grandma Winnie. She was 105. 105 years old. No, she was 108. I said, I'll go with the 105, okay? Grandma Winnie. This is the Winnie who went to work for old man Seale right after the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, I'm 82, so I'm almost a century too, you see what I mean? So I hope to live some more. My oldest son is 51. He just retired from the Army. Well, he was wounded. He fought in Iraq, and he also fought in Afghanistan. He was wounded in Afghanistan. He fought 2 years in Iraq and came back stateside for a year, and then they put him in Afghanistan, and he was wounded, and they brought him back. And I thought, when I kept trying to tell him, stop going to these goddamn shooting wars, man. These are going to kill you. I don't want you there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they took him up to Fort Lewis in Tacoma, Washington, top research medical framework, et cetera, for my son there. He was up there 8 months. And finally, he comes home. You know, his wife came over. I said, what kind of discharge they give you? 3916 medical? No, I don't have a discharge. I said, what you mean? You got to get out of the goddamn Army, man. Goddamn. See, you've been in all these goddamn wars and choosing this stuff. You got to stop this shit, you know what I mean? I don't want you kidding. I'm still in the Army. I said, oh, man, come on. I'm going to try to go over here. I think, what was that guy's name? The African guy who kidnapped all the women in Nigeria or something like that, the young girls and all that stuff. I think Obama at some time was talking about sending some crew over there. And Malik, my son, I'm going to go get a thing. I said, man, stop going to the shooting wars. Anyway, he wouldn't. So they sent him to Guantanamo Bay. And then after he was down there for about 7 months, his old wound acted up on him, so they sent him back to Tacoma. Anyway, he's retired out now. He made it. My middle son is a doctor. My oldest daughter, you know, she's got her degrees and everything, and she got her a great job and owned her own home and stuff like that. So I've been lucky with my kids in different ways, you know. But it's still about getting these young folks inspired. Now, when I make my film and movie, I'm making my film and movie so they would be inspired about a lot of work that a lot of young black folks did in my day. Remember, I had 5,000 members at one point. They put up them programs in all those chapters. They did that hard work in those chapters, et cetera, et cetera. And then later on after that, J. Edgar Hoover and the police forces attacked half of our offices and stuff. I mean, they just came in shooting. They didn't come in saying you're under arrest. And they did that, you know. And then finally there was a Senate investigation hearing against J. Edgar Hoover and the police. Senator Ted Kennedy and Senator Church, they called them to the carpet. Why are you running around here attacking these Black Panthers? These people run for political office with their names on the ballot, which we had done in 1968. I put community control of police on the ballot. And anyway, that stopped the shootouts and that kind of stuff. But at the same time, the struggle continues. You see what I'm getting at? I have 28 dead Black Panther Party members. And in the shootouts and battles, we defended ourselves. And in effect, what we did is that, I think in our shootouts and battles, we killed 14 of these policemen, you know what I mean? They wounded 69 of us, we wounded 32 of them. It wasn't no one-sided shooting, you know. I mean, you start coming in, like we said, shooting us, we shooting back. They waged war against us, and we were a political party doing legitimate jobs and stuff and frameworks that I had organized. So at any rate, let's say that this struggle continues. I hope that you get the young brothers and sisters and people educated and pointed in the right direction to understand our liberation. Now, this is humanity's liberation. When we're dealing with the whole ecology of our earth being here and not barren, you know what I mean, based on this carbon use, whatever. We just got to evolve alternative energy programs, et cetera, and we have to evolve programs that liberate the people economically, politically, social justice-wise, ecologically, et cetera. This is what this is all about nowadays. We've come to a head point, and we got to unseat this guy. We got to unseat this guy, impeachment or whatever, et cetera. And I want him impeached. I want him literally, wait a minute, impeached, and they agree with the Senate agrees with the impeachment to where he can never run for political office again. You know what I mean? So that means boom. And then when we do this, it's going to take us trying to take over as many of all these local, state level frameworks, et cetera, so we can have a real constitutional convention, so we can put health as a human right in the Constitution as an amendment. You see what I mean? We can put community cooperative housing in the Constitution as an amendment for the people to be able to evolve and maintain. We can do it. This is the kind of stuff, you know what I mean? This is what we want. We don't want no homeless people out here. I can build homeless housing, we can do all this kind of stuff, And look what's happening. Remember Bush, he's giving away trillions and trillions of dollars back to them, and we needed that for health and everything else. And then here come crazy Trump. He gave away $1.5 trillion. All that $1.5 trillion should have went straight for infrastructure, plus another $1 trillion for ecology and alternative energy development, which creates jobs, middle-class jobs. So that's where it's about, So let me say this again. It's about evolving greater people's empowerment. That means we have young people that have to be the new guards, the new legislative bodies, et cetera, who's going to fight and stand for all of our constitutional, democratic, civil, human rights. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bobby Seale. Thank you so much, sir.